as CDN has secured that funding for lending. Well, time for us to have our weekly segment, and that is Week in Perspective. And joining me right now on set is Ken Gishinga, our resident analyst, who will be making some sense for us on what are some of the big stories that have defined headlines this week. Of course, we want to start with the latest, that was the strike at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Ken. Paralyzed activities at the fourth largest and busiest airport in Africa. We cannot yet estimate the losses, but we understand that airlines are going to be paying heavily for this.
That was a big blow. About 26 airlines were disrupted, 24 international airlines and 2 domestic airlines. And tourism has been a big supporter for the Kenyan economy. So this was really what we did not need as an economist. And also the optics are very untidy. To have photos of Kenya Airways cabin crew running around with GSU officers, it didn't paint the right image. So I think in the future, engaging more stakeholders and really being able to mitigate these strikes, I think is the direction everybody wants.
All right. And Ken, it's one easy way to condemn what happened. It's another thing to look at the specifics, especially when it comes to this looming merger, as some have called it, others have called it a takeover, where the Kenya Airways is set to have a special purpose vehicle that will be sort of joining the two entities, that is the Kenya Airports Authority and Kenya Airways. And all this is geared towards seeing the airline sort of boost its operations, especially when it comes to the costs it has been incurring through the landing fees, the parking fees, as well as the ticket charge that KAA handsomely takes from passengers at the airport.
You know, it seems that there are two conversations running in parallel. On the one side, the airport workers are saying this is not something that's welcome. This is something that might risk their future jobs. On the other side, you have the CS Macharia. He's saying that it's a futuristic situation. Nothing has been agreed. This was a cabinet paper that there's no way you can have a strike before something substantive has been put on the table. That said, it doesn't matter who's the winner or the loser. Actually, Kenya becomes the loser because the optics, when a foreign investor comes to Jomo Kenyatta, maybe that one foreign investor who could have set up a manufacturing plant, if he arrived at Jomo Kenyatta on that morning, he didn't want to know who is on the winning side or the losing side of the debate. Just says this is not where an emerging market needs to be looked like. So I think government and the airport workers need to have these things behind the boardroom, settle these issues quietly so that not everybody is caught up. You saw a woman who nearly collapsed because she was caught up in that. So those are not the kind of pictures you want to send to the international community.
All right. And Ken, away from what happened at the airport, because you cannot exhaust it right now, but let's also take a look at what happened at Kirinyaga, where the 47 governors were converging for the devolution conference, which officially ended yesterday. And the big conversations coming out of that particular gathering, two that caught my attention. That is austerity measures, where the president indicated that 52% of all taxes collected go into paying salaries. And you know the breakdown further than I do. But really, where do we strike a balance in this conversation? Because the deputy president is saying we need to send more money to the counties. The former prime minister, Raila Odinga, indicating that we need a sort of a regional tier of government at the county level. That technically means we cut off some counties, really.
You're right. This was the biggest week for Kirinyaga County. I don't think the town of Kutus has seen more people than the past 1 week. So it was great for the county and just also the surrounding counties of Embu and Kirinyaga, Embu and Nyeri,
Murang'a as well.
And Murang'a, which really supported Kirinyaga because they didn't have the capacity.
Yes.
But that said, the president came with a business face and he argued that the economics is not working out. 52% is going to salaries, 30% is going to recurrent expenditure, and only 20% is going into development. And that really fed into the communique that came out later, about 23 resolutions that were passed. And the first resolution was that the national government and the county governments need to harmonize the revenue collection because counties still don't have the mechanics to raise enough revenue locally to be able to support themselves. And then number two, about the county statistics bill. These counties need to regenerate more statistics in which that can support the economic agenda. Now that said, you said the prime minister, the former prime minister, makes an argument that we need a third tier, which could be more expensive in terms of a wage bill.
Yes.
The Deputy Prime Minister said we need to retain it. Actually, we need to deepen devolution. We need to activate the ward development funds. At the end of the day, I think the big one was on corruption. Because some people argue it doesn't matter which of the models you take, if corruption is always a recurring theme, it will always fail. So a lot of people urge the president to really focus on fighting corruption, because it doesn't matter what innovation comes through. As long as corruption is the elephant in the room, money will always disappear.
Sure. And money has been disappearing, Ken. And unfortunately, we are out of time for now, because we have to pave way for the next segment, and that is the trading bell, where today Malika Kazia will be speaking to the Chief Executive Officer of the Nairobi Securities Exchange, that is Geoffrey Odundo, and of course some interesting conversation coming up right after this break. Thanks, my brother.
Always a pleasure.